The average Social Security retirement check in 2026 is right around $2,000 a month. Now, everything you read says that's not enough to live on in America. And then the famous retirement towns for sure, the ones in the brochures, that's completely true. I agree with them. But here's what's also true. There are real towns in this country, towns with hospitals, main streets, lakes, and history, where $2,000 a month isn't survival money, it's comfortable. The math works one way. You sell the house you have, you buy outright in a town where homes cost between $90,000 and $250,000, and suddenly your biggest bill in life is gone, and the check covers what's left with room to breathe. This video is 20 of those towns. Every home price pulled fresh from Zillow this week, every hospital checked, counting down to number 1, a river city where your check buys a life the wealthy pay millions to imitate. Start packing your skepticism because Town 20 is the most expensive one on the list, and the numbers somehow still work. Let's start at the ceiling on purpose. Milledgeville is the most expensive town on this entire countdown. Zillow has the typical home at $247,000, up about 5% this year. And I'm opening here because if the Social Security math works at the top of this list, everything below it gets easier. So run it. Georgia is one of the most retiree-friendly tax states in the country. The state excludes a large slice of retirement income from taxation entirely for older residents. Property taxes on a home like this run modest, with the senior homestead breaks most counties layer on. And a paid-off $247,000 house leaves a monthly load of taxes, insurance, utilities, and groceries that fits inside a $2,000 check with change left over. What the ceiling price buys is a town most of Georgia forgot it had. Milledgeville was a state capital for more than 60 years. The antebellum state house still stands on its hilltop as part of a military college campus, and the streets around downtown carry the columned architecture of a capital city that simply stopped being one in 1868 and never got paved over. Flannery O'Connor wrote nearly everything at Andalusia, her family farm on the edge of town, and you can walk it today, peacocks included. Georgia College anchors downtown with 8,000 students, concerts, lectures, and coffee shops that a town of 20,000 wouldn't otherwise earn. And 15 minutes east, Lake Sinclair spreads out over 15,000 acres of fishing and pontoon water, where lakefront still costs less than a suburban driveway in Atlanta. There's even a trolley tour that runs the historic district daily, which tells you the architecture pulls real visitors. And the deep-porched old governor's mansion, restored to its 1839 finery, opens for tours a short walk from the coffee shops. The hospital box is checked in town. Atrium Health Navicen Baldwin operates right in Milledgeville, with the bigger Macon Medical Campus 40 minutes down the road. The honest ledger, Middle Georgia summers are long and thick, and this is the priciest address of the next 40 minutes of your life. It's also the proof of concept. The ceiling works. Everything from here is downhill in the best possible way. There's a wall between Cape Girardeau and the Mississippi River, a serious one, tall as a building and a half mile long, built after the Great Floods to keep America's biggest river out of downtown. And instead of leaving it bare concrete, the town covered it in murals, 24 giant panels walking through the whole story of the city, so that the wall protecting Main Street became the single best history lesson on the Mississippi. That's Cape Girardeau's personality in one object. Practical first, then better than it had to be. This is a river city of 40,000 in East Tennessee, home to Southeast Missouri State University and its 15-story campus energy, a walkable old downtown of brick storefronts running down to the river, and the genuinely rare thing for this list, 2 full hospital systems in one town, St. Francis Healthcare and Southeast Hospital, the medical hub for a multi-state corner where Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky, and Tennessee lean together. Zillow has the typical home at $224,000, up 4.6% this year, and Missouri keeps the carrying cost polite. Property taxes below the national average, and the cost of living that lets a grocery run feel like $19.99. Your week here has texture. The riverfront park watching barges the length of city blocks slide past, the university's theater season, Trail of Tears State Park 10 minutes north, where the bluffs go vertical over the water, Rush Limbaugh grew up here, and Broadway's Sutton Foster came through the same schools. A strange little fact pair that locals mention with the same shrug. This river town has always produced more voices than its size explains. The honest line is that river cities live with their river. The wall exists because it's needed some years, and Missouri summers bring humidity that means it. And a quick one before we keep floating south. Subscribing to this channel is the only thing in retirement that's cheaper than Cape Girardeau. It costs exactly nothing, takes 1 second, and every number in every video gets pulled fresh the week it airs. Now into the mountains of East Tennessee. Tennessee doesn't tax your income. Not your Social Security, not your pension, not your withdrawals, nothing. The state simply doesn't have an income tax, which means every dollar of that $2,000 check arrives whole. Now put that tax math in the second oldest town in the state, 45 minutes from the Great Smoky Mountains, and you have Greenville. Zillow has the typical home here at $216,000, up 5.6% over the past year and going pending in under 2 weeks, because the secret is leaking. Greenville was founded in 1783. Its brick Main Street is a genuine Main Street America town, with the courthouse and the church spires and the storefronts intact. And right downtown sits the Andrew Johnson National Historic Site, the home and tailor shop of the 17th president, preserved by the Park Service, which makes this one of the few towns in America where a national park ranger works your Main Street. The setting is the quiet luxury, rolling green farm valleys with the Appalachians stacked blue behind them, the Nolichucky River running whitewater 20 minutes out, Douglas Lake for the pontoon crowd, and the Smokies, the most visited national park in the country, close enough for a morning drive and home by supper. Even the local legend runs deep. Davy Crockett was born on the Nolichucky just east of town, and the state park at his birthplace throws a celebration every August, frontier cooking and all. Healthcare sits in town. Greenville Community Hospital operates as part of the regional Ballard Health System, with the bigger specialty campuses in Johnson City about 45 minutes east, and that drive is the honest asterisk here. For the heavy cardiology day, you're on the highway. The rest of the ledger reads clean. 4 gentle seasons, mountain views from ordinary streets, property taxes among the lowest in America, and a state that lets your check land untouched. The general store in downtown still scoops ice cream under a tin ceiling. October turns the surrounding coves into a leaf-peeping event people drive hours for, and you'll live 20 minutes from it all for the cost of the gas. $2,000 a month in Greenville isn't a budget, it's a margin. 70 years before anyone gambled in Nevada, there was already a Las Vegas, and this is it. Las Vegas, New Mexico, founded in 1835 on the Santa Fe Trail, once one of the roughest, richest towns in the West. Doc Holliday ran a saloon here, the railroad poured money through, and the boom left behind more than 900 buildings on the historic registers, one of the densest collections of old architecture in the entire Southwest. Hollywood knows. Half the westerns and prestige films you've seen shot their 1800s street scenes right here, because the real thing never got torn down. The Plaza Hotel has anchored the Old Town Square since 1882, and when the movie crews leave, this is a working northern New Mexico town of 13,000, with New Mexico Highlands University keeping the calendar alive, and Story Lake glittering 10 minutes north. Montezuma Castle, a 19th century resort palace turned international school, rises out of the canyon 5 miles up, and then natural hot springs along the Galenas below it stay open to anyone who shows up with a towel, free year-round. Zillow has the typical home at $242,000, up 11% over the past year, the hottest gain on this entire countdown, and that number is doing the talking. Santa Fe money priced out of Santa Fe has found the original Las Vegas an hour up the highway, where the same adobe and Victorian texture costs a third as much. Your check math still clears. New Mexico's property taxes run low. The state gives retirees real income exemptions, and a paid-off home here leaves monthly essentials comfortably inside $2,000. Alta Vista Regional Hospital operates right in town, the medical anchor for this whole stretch of the High Plains. The honesty this town has earned. The 2022 wildfires burned through the mountains west of here, and the memory is raw. Winters at 6,400 feet are real, and the economy outside the university runs thin. But an hour from Santa Fe, at a third of the price, with the West's original Main Street. 11% says you're not the only one doing this math. Red Skelton was born in a little house in Vincennes, the son of a circus clown who died before he arrived, and the town never let anyone forget it. There's a whole museum of American comedy here wearing his name, which means you can retire in a place that keeps a shrine to the man who made your parents laugh on Tuesday nights. That's the newest layer of the oldest town in Indiana. Vincennes was founded by French fur traders in 1732, decades before the United States existed, and the history stacks like sediment. The George Rogers Clark Memorial rises on the Wabash Riverbank like a Greek temple, a colossal granite rotunda marking the Revolutionary War's westernmost victory. And Grouseland, the mansion William Henry Harrison built when this town governed the entire Indiana Territory, still stands 2 blocks from a working grocery store. Zillow has a typical home at $172,000, up 4.3% this year, in a state that doesn't touch your Social Security and keeps property taxes capped by its own constitution. Vincennes University, founded in 1801 and one of the oldest colleges west of the Alleghenies, runs concerts, ball games, and a planetarium through the calendar. And Good Samaritan Hospital operates right in town, a genuinely substantial regional medical center that this corner of Indiana leans on. Indiana's Watermelon Festival crowds the streets every August because Knox County grows more melons than anywhere in the state. And the old Cathedral Library downtown holds books older than the Republic, browsable on a Tuesday. Life here is Wabash River sunsets, a courthouse square that still functions, and the farmer's market under the shadow of a national memorial. The honest entry, Southwest Indiana is flat, quiet, and far from an airport. Indianapolis and Louisville are both 2 hours out, and excitement is something you drive to. What you keep in exchange is a $172,000 address with 3 centuries of stories, and a hospital you can see from most of them. And if the grandkids visit, the annual Spirit of Vincennes rendezvous over Memorial Day turns the riverbank into 1779. Cannons, long hunters, kettle corn, the whole living history circus, free with a lawn chair. Stand in Maid Street in Quincy and count the mansions. Lumber barons, stove magnates, and river merchants spent the 1800s trying to outbuild each other up this bluff over the Mississippi, and what they left behind is one of the largest collections of significant architecture in the Midwest, whole districts of Italianate, Queen Anne, and Prairie-style homes, plus a genuine Moorish castle called Villa Catherine perched above the river because one eccentric traveler wanted Morocco in Illinois. Here's what that architecture costs now. Zillow has the typical Quincy home at $183,000, up 4% this year, and the showpiece Victorians run what a garage costs in the towns your kids live in. Now, the tax line, because Illinois surprises people. Yes, this is a high property tax state. That's the honest weight on the scale here, and I won't pretend otherwise. But Illinois exempts retirement income from its state income tax entirely. Social Security, pensions, retirement account withdrawals, all of it untaxed, which for a retiree flips the state's reputation on its head. Quincy itself carries its weight. Blessing Hospital is a major regional medical center with the specialties that matter. The riverfront parks run for blocks. Eagles winter on the Mississippi by the hundreds. And Washington Park downtown hosted one of the Lincoln and Douglas debates. There's a bronze marker where the crowd stood in 1858. The Arts Center and a community theater that's run continuously since the 20s keep the calendar honest. And Saturday mornings belong to the farmers market on the square. Rhubarb in May, sweet corn stacked like firewood by July. The week here is Coffee Downtown, a symphony that's run for over 70 years, and sunsets that fall directly into the river. Gem City, they've called it since the steamboat days. The gems are the houses, and they're priced like costume jewelry. One more Quincy footnote worth a smile. The town sits directly across the river from Hannibal, Missouri, so Mark Twain's boyhood horizon is your grocery run, and the bridge toll is zero. Before Columbus existed, Ohio was run from Chillicothe. This was the state's first capital, 17 years before anyone drew Columbus on a map, and the town has spent 2 centuries quietly holding on to everything from that era. The Adena Mansion on its hill, the courthouse square, the brick streets that curve along the Scioto River. Then in 2023, something happened that changed what this town is. The massive 2,000-year-old earthworks at Hopewell Culture National Historical Park, giant geometric enclosures built by ancient hands just outside town, were named a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the same list as the pyramids in Stonehenge, which means Chillicothe retirees now take their morning walk at a world wonder. Zillow has a typical home at $175,000, up 4.4% and going pending in around 5 days, the fastest moving market on this countdown. And the demand makes sense when you stack the pieces. Adena Health System runs a full regional hospital right in town. Serious medical infrastructure for a city of 22,000. Every summer since 1973, the outdoor drama Tecumseh has played under the stars at Sugarloaf Mountain Amphitheater. Live horses, cannon fire, the whole valley showing up. Paper built this town's second act. The Mead Mill ran for over a century, and the paper money left behind Carlisle building elegance downtown that the past decade of restaurants and shops has been steadily refilling. And Columbus, with its airport and its everything, sits 50 minutes north, close enough to use, far enough to cost half as much, and close enough that the grandkids have no excuse. Quick intermission of my own before the top 13. If a $175,000 town with a World Heritage Site sounds useful, hit subscribe. It costs nothing, and unlike the Tecumseh Cannons, it won't wake the neighbors. The honest note here rides the Scioto, River Valley humidity in summer, and the gray Ohio stretch from January to March. 5-day pending times say plenty of people have decided the trade is worth it. The White River runs right through downtown Batesville, wide and green under the bluffs, and on summer evenings you'll see retirees fishing off the access points inside city limits, which is the whole pitch in one image, a river town where the river is a daily amenity instead of a postcard. Batesville is one of the oldest towns in Arkansas, seat of Independence County in the Ozark foothills, and Zillow has a typical home at $183,000, up 6.7% this year, one of the strongest gains on this list, in a state where property taxes sit near the national floor and living costs follow. The town runs deeper than its size. Lyon College, a private liberal arts school, throws the Arkansas Scottish Festival every spring, bagpipes and Highland games in the Ozarks, and keeps lectures and concerts circulating all year. White River Health operates its flagship regional hospital right in town, the medical hub for a wide slice of north-central Arkansas, cardiology and cancer care included, which is infrastructure most 11,000-person towns simply don't have. The river itself stays cold out of the dams upstream, which means trout water in Arkansas heat, and Jamestown Crag 20 minutes out gives the hiking crowd real Ozark sandstone bluffs without the Branson traffic. And for a certain generation of race fans, Batesville needs no introduction at all. This is Mark Martin's hometown. His name is on the boulevard and his trophies practically raised half the town. So if your Sundays used to sound like engines, you'll be among friends. Downtown has been steadily reviving. The old Melba Theater runs movies again under its neon, and the Ozarks start rolling within minutes of the last stoplight. The honest ledger, summers are humid Arkansas summers, and Little Rock is 90 minutes when you need a big city or an airport. The check math, though, barely breaks a sweat here. Paid off house, tiny tax bill, a river out the window, and a hospital up the street. That's the formula this whole video runs on, and Batesville might be its most balanced example yet. West Virginia was born in Wheeling. The state literally declared itself into existence here in 1863. Inside a hall you can still visit downtown. And for the next half-century, this Ohio River city was one of the richest per capita in America. Nail mills, glass, tobacco, and the money built things that are still standing and still absurd for a city this size. A suspension bridge from 1849, the oldest of its kind, still carrying traffic anywhere. So beautiful they lit it like jewelry. Whole hillsides of Victorian brick, and Ogle Bay, a 1,700-acre municipal park with golf courses, gardens, a lodge, and a winter light festival that draws 1 million visitors, owned by the city, meaning your park, funded forever. Zillow has a typical Wheeling home at $155,000, up 4.6% this year, and those Victorians on the hills go for numbers that would make a Pittsburgh realtor weep 60 minutes away. West Virginia sweetened the deal recently by phasing out its tax on Social Security entirely, so the check lands whole here too. WVU Medicine Wheeling Hospital anchors healthcare right in town, with the university's larger network behind it. The Capitol Theater still runs shows under its 1920s chandeliers, the same stage where the Wheeling Jamboree broadcast country music across half of America for decades, second only to the Opry age. And Center Market's 1850s market houses now hold coffee roasters and lunch counters. Even the odd stuff charms. Wheeling Island sits mid-river, an actual Victorian neighborhood on an island in the Ohio, one of the largest inhabited river islands in the country. The plain talk, this is a Rust Belt city still climbing back. Some blocks are worn and the population is half its 1930 peak, and Ohio Valley winters run gray. But you're buying at half-empty prices in a city built for full, with a 19th century park system and a bridge older than the state itself. The climb back is the discount. And when you want a big league evening, Pittsburgh stadiums, museums, and airports sit 1 hour up the river, close enough for a ball game and home before the bridge lights dim. Yes, that Roswell. And let's get the aliens out of the way first, because the town certainly doesn't. The 1947 incident turned this high plains city into the UFO capital of the world. There's a museum dedicated to it downtown. The streetlights wear little alien eyes. Even the McDonald's is shaped like a flying saucer. And every July, the UFO festival fills the streets with people in green face paint having the time of their lives. It's silly, it's self-aware, and it keeps a 50,000-person city's downtown alive in a way most towns this remote would kill for. Now the part nobody flies in for. Zillow has the typical Roswell home at $152,000, essentially flat this year, in a state that exempts a healthy slice of retirement income and keeps property taxes low, under a sun that shines about 300 days a year at 3,600 feet, which means real seasons without brutal winter. Eastern New Mexico Medical Center operates right in town, the regional hospital for the whole southeast quarter of the state, cardiology and cancer center included. And the landscape holds surprises the gift shops don't mention. Bottomless Lake State Park sits 15 minutes east, New Mexico's first state park, a chain of sapphire sinkhole lakes in the desert where locals swim and scuba dive. And every winter, tens of thousands of sandhill cranes descend on the Bitter Lake Refuge like something older than any flying saucer story. There's serious art here too. The Roswell Museum holds a nationally respected Southwest collection, plus the actual workshop of Robert Goddard, who built the world's first liquid fuel rockets on the plains outside town. Aliens optional, rockets documented. The honest math on the map, Roswell is genuinely out there. Albuquerque is 3 hours, Lovelock 2, and summer afternoons cook. But $152,000 buys a solid brick home. The hospital is up the street. The sun is reliable, and your town has the single most famous name on this entire list. Nobody talks about retiring here. Everybody's heard of it anyway. The Mississippi River bends below Vicksburg exactly the way it did in 1863, when this bluff-top city was the most important real estate in America, and 47 days of siege decided the Civil War's western half. The battlefield never left. Vicksburg National Military Park wraps the whole northeast side of town, 16 miles of monuments, 1,800 of them. Stone state memorials the size of small banks scattered through green hills, plus a raised ironclad gunboat, the USS Cairo, sitting under its canopy like a dinosaur skeleton. Living here means having one of America's great historical parks as your walking loop. Zillow has the typical home at $156,000, down about 2% this year. And in this video's math, a dip is leverage, because Mississippi doesn't tax retirement income at all. Not Social Security, not pensions, not withdrawals, and property taxes run near the bottom of the country. A paid-off Bluff View Victorian here leaves monthly numbers that make the check look generous. The town underneath the history works. Merrick Health River Region operates the full hospital in town. The old downtown runs along Washington Street with galleries and the Beaten Hard Museum where Coca-Cola was first bottled in 1894. And the riverboat casinos along the waterfront keep restaurants and live music funded, whether you ever pull a lever or not. The Lower Mississippi River Museum downstairs from the bluff even keeps a retired Corps of Engineers research vessel you can board, and springtime azaleas turn the old garden district into a 2-week color event locals plan visits around. The honest paragraph inside the paragraph: Vicksburg's economy outside tourism runs thin. Summer is a swamp air marathon, and those falling prices reflect a town that needs newcomers more than it says out loud. Which, if you're holding a fixed check and reading this market, is precisely the invitation. And if you golf, the Bluff Country courses here play green 10 months a year for municipal prices, a detail the coastal retirement towns charge 4 figures a month to imitate. 15 years ago, you could stand in downtown Danville and hear your own footsteps. The textile mills that built this city on the Dan River had closed one after another. The tobacco warehouses had gone quiet, and Danville was the cautionary tale of Southern Virginia. Then the town did something almost nothing its size pulls off. It rebuilt on purpose. The River District Plan took those hulking brick mills and warehouses and turned them into lofts, restaurants, breweries, and offices. The Riverwalk Trail now runs miles along the Dan past kayak launches and murals. And in 2024, a full-scale casino resort opened on the old mill land, pouring jobs and tax money into a city that had been starving for both. Zillow has the typical Danville home at $161,000, up 1% this year, which prices a brick 4-square near a revitalized downtown at less than a third of what Northern Virginia charges for a parking space condo. Sova Health Danville operates the hospital right in town. Everett University keeps a college pulse downtown, and Virginia's tax code gives retirees a meaningful age deduction on top of untouched Social Security. The old tobacco auction district even holds a science center with an IMAX-scale dome theater inside a restored train station, and the Riverwalk crosses the Dan on a converted rail bridge that lights up at night. The counterweight is real, and I'll leave it standing. Danville is a comeback still in progress. The poverty the mills left behind hasn't vanished from every block, and this is a bet on a trajectory, not a finished postcard. What tilts the bet? The millions the casino now sends the city budget every year are visibly landing in parks, paving, and police. The rare small town whose finances are improving while yours stay fixed. And a quick word from the comeback capital before the top 8. This channel works like the River District. No flash, steady rebuild, compounding value. So subscribe if the numbers are earning their keep. It costs you nothing and pays weekly. The top 8 opens with barbecue and banjos, and I mean that literally. Every May, the smell of burgoo and slow mutton rolls off the Ohio River through downtown Owensboro, because this city of 60,000 holds the International Barbecue Festival and takes the title seriously. Barbecue capital of the world, argued with tongs. And the music matches the menu. The Bluegrass Music Hall of Fame and Museum sits right on the riverfront, a national caliber museum in a gleaming building, because Bill Monroe was born one county over, and Kentucky decided the genre shrine belonged here, with live pick-in on the calendar most weeks. That riverfront is the town's masterpiece. Smothers Park runs along the Ohio with fountains, swings facing the water, and the playground that's won international awards, the kind of place your grandkids will request by name. Zillow has a typical home at $185,000, up 4.3% and pending in 11 days, in a state that doesn't tax Social Security and excludes a healthy chunk of pension and retirement account income on top. Owensboro Health Regional Hospital anchors the medical file, a genuinely large modern campus that serves 11 counties, the kind of facility that usually requires a city 3 times the size. Daily life runs on river sunsets, a walkable downtown that's been steadily filling since the riverfront rebuild, and Friday nights that smell like hickory. Every August, the town also throws one of the biggest free bluegrass street festivals in the country. Romp draws tens of thousands to the park for 4 days, and the local burgoo argument, which church stirs the best kettle, has run unresolved for a century on purpose. The honest ledger: Western Kentucky summers are humid, the airport is regional small with Nashville 2 hours south for the big flights, and if you don't like barbecue or banjos, this is the wrong list entirely. For everyone else, $185,000 buys a brick ranch 15 minutes from a Hall of Fame, a festival, and the hospital with your cardiologist already in it. Sassafras tea and mutton aside, the town also keeps a botanical garden, a symphony that's played since the 60s, and the river marina where a modest boat slip costs what coastal towns charge for parking. Rosemary Clooney never really left Maysville. The singer grew up here on the Ohio River. The restored Art Deco Russell Theater downtown is where they premiered her first movie in 1953, with her arriving like royalty, and the town still throws celebrations in her honor, which tells you what kind of place this is, one that keeps its people. Maysville is one of Kentucky's oldest river towns, and its downtown is genuinely stunning. Wrought iron balconies and federal brick running down to the flood wall, which the town, like Cape Girardeau 8 spots ago, refused to leave blank. Murals cover it end to end, telling 2 centuries of river stories. History runs serious here. The National Underground Railroad Museum operates downtown because this stretch of river was one of the crossing grounds, and Old Pogue, one of Kentucky's oldest bourbon names, distills again on its original family ground above town. The town also gave country music George Clooney's aunt and the wider world his whole family, and the covered wrought iron arcades over the sidewalks downtown, rare as hen's teeth anywhere else, keep your morning walk dry in any weather. Zillow has the typical home at $161,000, up 5.3% this year. Same Kentucky tax kindness as Owensboro. Social Security untouched, retirement income generously excluded, and Meadowview Regional Medical Center sits right in town for the everyday, with Lexington's big academic hospitals an hour southwest. The week here is Riverwalks, a bakery that knows your order. Cincinnati an hour north when you need an airport or a ball game. The honest sentence, Maysville is small, 9,000 people small, and quite enough that the theater schedule is the nightlife. Some people read that sentence as a warning. The rest of you just felt your shoulders drop 2 inches. And for you, this river town is a $161,000 exhale. Time your move for September and you'll land during the Buffalo Trace Festival season on the river, when the whole valley remembers it was the frontier's front door. The street signs in Tahlequah are written in 2 alphabets, English and the 86-character Cherokee syllabary, because this Ozark foothills town is the capital of the Cherokee Nation and has been since 1839. That makes Tahlequah one of the most distinct addresses in America, a working capital city of a nation of 400,000 citizens, with the 1860s Capitol building restored on the square, the Cherokee National History Museum beside it, and a cultural calendar, art markets, the national holiday every Labor Day weekend that no town of 24,000 could otherwise dream of. Here's what that means for a retiree in purely practical terms. The Cherokee Nation runs one of the largest tribal health systems in the country, and W.W. Hastings Hospital in Tahlequah anchors it alongside Northeastern Health System's campus, so this small town carries genuinely serious medical infrastructure. Zillow has a typical home at $201,000, up 8.9% over the past year, the second hottest gain on this countdown, and the geography explains the demand. The Illinois River runs clear and green just east of town, the flow trip capital of Oklahoma, and Lake Temkiller, the state's clearest lake, spreads out 20 minutes south with scuba-visible water in landlocked Oklahoma. Northeastern State University keeps 8,000 students and their calendar downtown. Oklahoma's cost of living sits near the national floor, and the state gives retirement income real exemptions. The Cherokee Heritage Center south of town hold a recreated ancient village where cultural demonstrations run through the warm months. And float outfitters on the Illinois will put you on the water with a cooler and a paddle for the price of a movie ticket. The honest notes? Tulsa is over an hour for the airport, and summer humidity in the foothills is a fact of July. But $201,000 in a capital city with 2 hospitals, a clear river, and the deepest cultural identity on this list? 8.9% says the word is out. The steepest vehicular incline plane on Earth runs up a hillside in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. It was built in 1891 so a town that had just survived the worst flood disaster in American history could evacuate uphill in minutes. And it still runs today, hauling cars and tourists up a 71% grade to a view of the whole valley. That's Johnstown in one machine, a town that answered catastrophe with engineering and kept the receipt. The 1889 flood story is told properly here. A national memorial at the failed dam site, a downtown museum, the stone bridge that caught the wreckage still standing. And living with that history gives this Steel Valley town a gravity most cheap towns never earn. The town also keeps unexpected joys, a minor league hockey barn that's hosted teams for generations, the oldest continuously running arena of its kind in the country, and Stackhouse Park's 300 wooded acres folding right into the residential streets. And Johnstown is cheap in a way that changes the entire math of retirement. Zillow has a typical home at $104,000, flat over the past year, the second lowest price on this countdown. In a state that taxes retirement income at exactly zero, Pennsylvania touches neither Social Security nor pensions nor retirement account withdrawals for retirees, a fact that shocks people who only know the state by its reputation. Now stack the hospital, because this is the part towns twice this size can't match. Conemaugh Memorial Medical Center is a major regional referral hospital and trauma center right in town. Over 500 beds of infrastructure left over from the steel era, serving the whole Alleghenies. Quick landing before the top 4, and I'll keep it Johnstown flavored. Subscribing is the only thing on this channel with a 0% grade. No climb, no cost, one tap and the numbers arrive fresh weekly. The honest ledger here is the town itself. Johnstown is still shrinking, some streets show it plainly, and Gray Valley winters are long. What $104,000 buys is a paid-off house, a fortress hospital, a state that ignores your check, and a funicular to the overlook. Engineering, again, answering everything. There's a 55-room Mediterranean palace on the plains of northern Oklahoma, hand-painted ceilings, a polo field, an artificial lake built in the 1920s by an oil man named E.W. Marland, who, at his peak, controlled a tenth of the world's oil. He lost it all within a decade. The company that swallowed his became part of Conoco, and the palace, the Marland Mansion, still stands in Ponca City, open for tours, the grandest monument to boom and bust between Chicago and Dallas. That's the town's origin story, and the inheritance is everywhere. Marland's money built a city of parks, an Art Deco downtown, and the Pioneer Woman, a 17-foot bronze of a settler mother striding west that's become one of the great statues in the American interior, with a museum beside her. What all that history costs now is the punchline. Zillow has a typical Ponca City home at $129,000, up 4.9% this year, third cheapest on this entire countdown, in the same low-cost, retirement-friendly Oklahoma we covered in Tahlequah. The practical spine holds. Alliance Health Ponca City runs the hospital in town, and Kaw Lake, 17,000 acres of striper water and eagle coves, starts 10 minutes east. Daily life is morning coffee downtown under the deco facades, the standing Bear Park on the north side honoring the Ponca chief whose court case made history, and evenings at a lake most of America has never heard of. The Poncan Theater, a 1920s vaudeville house restored to its gilded ceilings, still runs films and live shows downtown. And Marland's first, smaller mansion operates as a museum too, because this town has palaces to spare. The honest lines, Ponca City still leans on the refinery at the edge of town. The wind blows like it means it, and Tulsa or Wichita is your 90-minute airport run. $129,000, next door to a palace. Marland spent a fortune proving money doesn't last here. Turns out that's exactly why yours will. One practical footnote, Ponca City's own municipal utilities keep power and water bills famously low for the region, the kind of small print advantage that shows up every single month on a fixed income. $86,000. That's a typical home value in Galesburg, Illinois per Zillow this week, down 0.5%. The cheapest number on this entire countdown, and I want you to hold it next to what this town actually is before your brain files it under nowhere. Galesburg is where Carl Sandburg was born, the poet of the American heartland. His 3-room birth cottage is preserved on a quiet street, and the town keeps his ashes under a red granite boulder called Remembrance Rock. It's where Knox College has stood since 1837, and Old Main on its campus is the only building still standing anywhere that hosted a Lincoln and Douglas debate, October 1858. The words argued off its east wall helped put Lincoln on the path to the White House. And it's one of the great railroad towns of America. The BNSF classification yard still hums around the clock. The Railroad Museum keeps a steam engine polished, and every June the town throws railroad days like the 1880s never ended. The math on top of the story is almost unfair. Illinois, as Quincy taught us 5 entries ago, taxes retirement income at 0. And yes, the state's famous property tax rates apply, but rates on an $86,000 base produce bills that would make a Texan smile. OSF St. Mary Medical Center operates right in town for the hospital line. Seminary Street downtown keeps a stubborn strip of bookshops, cafes, and a restored Deco theater alive. Every September, the National Stearman Fly-In fills the sky with 1930s biplanes, the largest gathering of them on Earth, circling over a town where the trains still call, which is about as American as an afternoon gets. The honest reckoning, Galesburg has been losing population since the Maytag plart left 20 years ago. Some blocks wear it, and this is a town that needs believers. But show me anywhere else in America where a paid-off house, a Lincoln site, a poet's grave, and a working hospital cost $86,000. Your check doesn't just survive here, it's wealthy. Steam rises out of the sidewalk grates on Central Avenue because underneath downtown Hot Springs, 143-degree thermal water is pushing up through the rock the way it has for 4,000 years. And the row of grand 1920s bathhouses built to catch it, Bathhouse Row, is a national park. Not near one, it is one. Hot Springs is the only city in America that grew up inside a national park boundary. The park's visitor center is a bathhouse, one bathhouse is now a brewery making beer from thermal spring water, and 2 of them will still run you the full old century soak. This is also, at $248,000 on Zillow, basically flat this year, the most expensive town in this countdown's top half. And it's sitting at number 2 anyway, because the check math survives contact with the price. Arkansas property taxes run among the lowest in the nation. The state exempts a healthy slice of retirement income, and a paid-off home here leaves a monthly load that $2,000 covers with room for the racetrack. Which brings up Oaklawn, the historic thoroughbred track that's run since 1904, now with a casino and hotel attached, an entertainment engine most small cities would trade their skyline for. 3 lakes ring the town: Hamilton, Catherine, and giant Wachita with its island-studded clear water, so the fishing and pontoon file overflows. Garvin Woodland Gardens spreads 200 botanical acres along the Hamilton shoreline, with a glass chapel in the trees that photographers cross states for. And the observation tower on Hot Springs Mountain puts the whole Wachita Range under your coffee. The healthcare file doubles up. CHI St. Vincent Hot Springs and National Park Medical Center, 2 full hospitals in a city of 38,000. Honest margins, tourist season crowds Central Avenue, summer is Arkansas summer, and that price is real. This is a splurge pick. But somewhere on this list, the question flips from can I afford it to what am I affording it for? A national park out the front door? Thermal water in the pipes? Horses in April? That's what. The oldest city on the Mississippi is not New Orleans. Natchez was founded in 1716, 2 years earlier, on a 200-foot bluff above the biggest river on the continent. And for one strange stretch of the 1800s, it held more millionaires per capita than any city in America. Cotton money, and let's say it plainly the way the town's own museums now do, wealth built on the labor of enslaved people, poured into mansion after mansion on the bluff. And because Natchez surrendered early in the Civil War rather than burn, nearly all of it survived. The result is the largest collection of antebellum architecture anywhere, over 1,000 structures. Longwood, with its unfinished onion dome standing exactly as the workmen left it in 1861, tools still in place, Stanton Hall filling an entire city block, and twice a year the pilgrimage opens to private homes to visitors, a tradition running since 1932. Now the number this entire video has been building toward. Zillow has a typical Natchez home at $117,000, down 10.7% over the past year. Read that again slowly. The most architecturally rich small city in the American South costs less than a used luxury SUV, and it got cheaper this year, which makes this the single most dramatic check-to-life ratio in the country. Mississippi, as Vicksburg showed us, taxes retirement income at 0, nothing off your Social Security, nothing off the pension, and property taxes on a $117,000 home run to numbers you could cover collecting aluminum cans. Merit Health Natchez operates the hospital right in town. The Natchez Trace Parkway, 444 miles of protected national parkway, literally begins at the edge of town, arguably the most beautiful drive in the South unspooling from your doorstep. Evening means the Bluff, where the whole town gathers at sunset to watch the Mississippi turn to copper, barges gliding 100 feet below, and it costs exactly nothing every single night forever. Now look back down this whole countdown, because Natchez is where every thread ties. The river towns, Cape Girardeau, Quincy, Maysville, Owensboro, Vicksburg, all of them practicing for this bluff. The zero tax states, Tennessee, Pennsylvania, Illinois on retirement income, Mississippi playing the ace. The cheap history towns, Galesburg's Lincoln Wall, Vincennes Territory Mansion, all echoed here at cathedral scale. The honest close, because Natchez has earned straight talk. This is a poor town around the mansions. The population has thinned for decades. Summer is a steam bath, and that falling price is the market saying it needs people. People with a guaranteed monthly check, no mortgage, and time to sit on a bluff. There's a specific kind of American for whom this town is checkmate, and if you've watched 40 minutes of this video, the odds are decent you're one of them. $2,000 a month. The cotton millionaire spent fortunes to live here. You just need the check. 20 towns, one formula, and now you've seen every version of it. A paid-off house under $250,000, a state that leaves retirement income alone, and 8 of these do exactly that. A real hospital inside city limits, all 20 have one, that was the entry fee. And one identity, a river, a railroad, a palace, a bathhouse, a nation's capital that makes Tuesday feel like somewhere. Stack those 4 and the average Social Security check stops being a warning statistic and starts being a budget with a margin. Now the part I'll always give you straight. Your check isn't the average check, your health isn't hypothetical, and a video is homework, not a decision. Visit in the worst month, pricey insurance, walk into the hospital lobby, sit in the diner and eavesdrop, then decide. Numbers change monthly. Verify everything fresh. And tell me in the comments, could you actually live on your check in one of these 20? And which town should I put under the microscope next? Those answers write the feature videos. Subscribe if these 40 minutes earned it. The numbers get pulled fresh every single week. See you in the next one.